Hey there. My name's Daniel. I write fantasy novels and poetry. um, I go by King Loki sometimes. You might have heard my podcast, Demon Toast. But today, today I want to talk about something a little closer to home than whatever all that is. This is the first book in my series. This is the demon's struggle for his infernal soul. And, it's book one of, at the moment, three. I'm working on book four right now, but I wanted to talk about my writing for a change. I do so much work promoting other people's work with my magazine, Death Wish, poetry magazine, that I don't really get to talk about my own writing. So that's what I'm going to do. I just want to talk about my book. You know, So this is my Demonland series, right? My main character, Splinter, is a bat demon. He's called a Chiropteran, which is a scientific word for the type of creature that a bat is. So basically, my series takes place in a world where angels came and colonized a planet that was basically going through a medieval period of feudalism. And they set up a network of kingdoms ruled by angels. Each angel took over a swath of land, and they ruled them as the Starborn kingdoms. There were two angels, though. One was named Absalom, and one was named Apollyon. Apollyon was like a scientist. He discovered that on this planet, which was called Erd, or Erde, depending on how you read the way I spell it. Here it is right here. But Apollyon found that there was what he called a sinkhole, which allowed him to actually find and reach into this hole in the universe where eons ago there had been a war amongst the angels, and one of them had become a rebel, and they called him Satan. Great Satan, to be specific, because of how powerful he was. His final defeat, was so great that when he was banished, he fell so hard and so fast that he tore a hole in the universe. And his spirit shattered into 1,000,000,000,000 pieces. Well, Apollyon found a portal to that hole. And what he found was that there were demons there. These demons did not have bodies. They were just corporate spirits. Shards of Great Satan's tremendous spirit that had gained sentience and life, but had no bodies of their own, right? Well, Absalom wasn't interested in a kingdom of his own, and he set about helping Apollyon to experiment with the sinkhole and see if they could give the demons some kind of relief, right? And them being angels and higher beings, they weren't too concerned, right? Because they realized that these demons would come into the world and they would take over bodies. And they figured that there weren't that many demons. And, the angels ruling over their kingdoms on Erd they could stand to lose like a few thousand people. Well, the Starborn kingdoms weren't just human kingdoms, right? Many of the angels chose to bestow sentience on animals, right? So, you had these like large anthropomorphic bats, you had these cat people, right? You had insectoids of all different sorts. You had spiders that were larger and had sentience. When Absalom and Apollyon forged a mystical key called the Key of Incarnation, allowing the demons to leave the void, which was called Sheol. I took the name from Jewish mysticism. Also just it's an old word that Jews use to describe the afterlife. But the void is called Sheol in my series. And they released them, and it was a calamity called the Great Incarnation. And the demons basically set about seeking bodies to incarnate it, to possess and take over, that suited their spirits. Those demons that liked darkness and wished to have wings would take over Chiropterans. Most of the demons took over people. Those demons were called fiends, you know. All the demons that I have in my books are scaly and have fur. They all have dark eyes. Most of them have fangs, needle-like teeth and claws. They all, except for like the insectoids, have horns, you know. But yeah, no, this triggered like a really violent reaction amongst all the angels, and they set about trying to quarantine and cure these people who were possessed by demons. But what ended up happening was Absalom rallying them all together and initiating what became known as the Rapture Wars. My novel picks up millennia after all this has happened. The demons won the war, right? They control a lone continent on Erd, which was once known as Sunmaria, but is now just referred to as Demonland. There are 3 major cities in Demonland. There's Duskgrim, where my stories mostly take place, Howl City, Doom City, which is ruled by the Universal Church of Satan, which is, the predominant, religious body in Demonland. It's kind of like the Catholic Church, because there's also the Anti-Cosmic Church of Satan, but they have much less influence. So the Absalom, at the time of the demon's struggle for his infernal soul, the first book, at the time of the writing of the book, right, he's still alive. But, in the years between the Rapture Wars ending and the modern day, he channeled a demon from hell into his body as a sign of solidarity with his people, because he's an angel, Yes, he overthrew his angelic brethren. However, he ruled over them. But for some reason, he fell into a deep sleep several hundred years ago. And ever since then, the demonic empire, which is called the Apollonic Empire now, in reverence to the great angel Apollyon, who freed demons from the void, well, it's been ruled by a Senate. Kind of similar to what we have in America, but there's no House of Representatives. It's just the Senate. Humans do not have representation in the Senate, There are 2 political parties in, the Demonland universe. There are the Promisers, who are somewhat analogous to the Democrats in, American culture. Although they're a lot more corporatist, and I make no bones about how... You see, the Democrats come across as very spineless. I myself am incredibly liberal. You could call me a leftist, I suppose. The way I write my, the promisers in my books, a lot of what they say is pure lip service. They advocate for human rights. They advocate for universal basic income, which is a pipe dream, in the real world. But in my books, none of these things are really going to happen. It's just, they talk about it all the time. They're essentially controlled opposition. The other major political party are the Shoeshiners, because there was a time when you could support a family on a simple Shoeshiners budget, They're basically Republicans. Enough said. My main character, Splinter. He's a young Chiropteran demon who was born without wings. And even though his magical affinity is very high, and he shows a lot of promise, not having wings does things to a little bat demon. Especially one who, well, by all accounts, it seems like he's going to inherit the family castle. He has 2 older brothers. One of them is named Void. And Void is a favorite character of many of my readers. Void plays guitar. He plays bass guitar in a band called Parasitic Cesspool. And his dad hates him. Splinter's dad, well, he's a senator. His name is Malakarm, and he is an evil, greedy fuck. He's a conniving son of a bitch. He's actually one of the protagonists of Book 3, The Devil's Computer. And there you can see him. Art actually done by Hunter Jackson of Gwar, so pretty fucking rad, right? But, that's him right there, the sneering, evil Chiropteran demon right there. So Senator Malakarm, the evil senator dad of our main character, he doesn't care for for Splinter's older brother Void, who Splinter actually lives with in the first book, And Splinter loves his older brother Void. He thinks he's a badass, and he doesn't like that their father doesn't approve of him, you know? And then their oldest brother, Shatter, well, he's a soldier in the army. He's what's known as a ghoul trooper. And they're, I suppose, analogous to Marines. They're special forces who go in and fuck shit up, man. You don't fuck with the ghoul troopers. He's on an upward trajectory. Their family is very beloved. Splinter's ancestor is a guy named Isaiah, who's who during the Rapture Wars killed a very powerful angel all on his own. And, there's movies made about him in the world of Demonland. There's songs written about him. He's a hero. He's like King Arthur or something. People love him, And, Splinter and the other members of the Howler clan, they all want to be like him, Now, their land is called Batsmark, and the current Earl of Batsmark is Splinter's uncle, Yurik, who's an older, wise Chiropteran demon who holds a mystical sword called Nightsinger. Nightsinger was Isaiah's sword, Isaiah being Splinter's ancestor, who I, mentioned having killed the angel. And the big question is, who will inherit Nightsinger? So the plot of the novel is very simple. I mean, I'm throwing a lot at you. And if you stuck through all this, thanks. I appreciate it, These books are a labor of love. The plot is Splinter has a human girlfriend named Faustina. And Faustina is what's known as a fledgling. She's descended from an angel. The angels took human mates, and there are some children who are born to these bloodlines who are born with wings and angelic power. Now, in Demonland, these children are put to death because they're a threat to the national security of the Demon Empire. In other countries, right, all the angels are dead at the time of the story. They were all killed in the Rapture Wars. The angels in other countries came to Demonland to try to purge the infection, right? And they were all ultimately brought down. The only reason the demons didn't take over the world after that is simply because there weren't as many of them, and, well, a continent is a lot to secure, right? And shortly after, the Emperor fell into a deep sleep. So, Faustina, being a fledgling, her wings were cut off when she was a baby so that she would have a chance to live. Her mother cut her wings off. Her mother, also being, of this bloodline. Well, Splinter knows that his girlfriend is a fledgling, and their magic tutor, a human sorcerer named Witheron, he's plotting to overthrow the government of Demonland, right? He has a whole plan that, basically he wants to use Splinter to rob a museum, steal the angel skeletons that are there, and then use Faustina's fledgling powers to effectively grow angelic bodies around them, into new creatures that they'll call forgelings, and lead an insurrection. And Splinter's along for the ride because he's told that he'll get to run the show afterwards. And that kind of gets to the heart of what I want to talk about. Splinter is a terrible, human being, but he's a demon, right? He's a terrible person. He will almost always make the wrong choice. And his swordmaster, a retired demonic knight named Vex, tries so hard to push Splinter in the right direction, but, well, this is a novel about toxic masculinity. It's a novel about empire. And it's a novel about how the expectations of what our place in society promises us and kind of the allure of power and the desire to have more and how that corrupts us, It's a cool book, and you should check it out. But if you don't want to check it out, you can just listen to me talk about it. Because that's what I want to do with this channel. I just want to talk about my writing. So, yeah, I'm Dan. Let's be friends. Let's be writing buddies. And tell me about your book. Fuck it, man, you know? Like, let's build a writing community. Why the fuck not, right? That's all I got. You know, make art, write poetry, write novels, love your demons. Ave fucking Satanas.